Hey, what's up guys? Welcome again to another video. On this video I'm going to teach you Python lists. So this is for intermediate learners. So what are lists? Lists are data types. They are ordered, immutable, and allows duplicate of elements. So you can write your list, my list, let's say equals to, say you can have banana, then you can have oranges, and then you can have apples. Just remember that lists are created by square brackets, and then we can print our list. Okay, we have a list of banana, orange, and apples. You can also create an empty list. For example, my list two, let's say equals to, let's use the list function, then print my list two. Okay, on printing, okay, you can see we have an empty list here. Also, list allows multiple data types. For example, you can have a boolean, a boolean like true, and can contain a string. Let's say my name. Also, it can contain a number 5. So when we print my list, okay, we have a true, we have a number, and we have my name. If you want to access a particular element on a list, you can do this by referring the index of a particular list. For example, let's say an item is equal to my list at index 0. If we print and save this, so we have the item. Okay, we print bananas. So you can also try to access the orange. Just put here number 1. Is just remember that when we are counting the lists, we start with 0, 1, and 2. So if we print, so we have oranges, we can test it to number 2 here, and then if we print it, so we have the apples. Okay, you can also specify a negative index. For example, this refers to the last element of the list. So if we print our list here, we get the apples because this is the last element of our list. Okay, you can also, if you want to iterate through your list, for example, you can iterate for I in my list, then let's print I. So if we print this, so we get all the, we iterate through our list. Also, if you want to check if an item is inside your list, you can do this by write if example, say banana is in my list. Just keep a step here, in my list, then we can print let's say true. It's not true. Okay, so let's see what happens. Good, so it's true. It means that our banana exists in our list. Let's try for an element that doesn't exist. Let's say cherry. Okay, it doesn't print. Let's talk about some other useful methods you can do with wrist. First of all, if you want to check a length of a wrist, you can do this by writing. Let's print the length, then my wrist. Let's go ahead and save this. Okay, it shows 3. For sure you have 1, 2, and 3. Okay, if you want to append an item, you can do that with an append method. Let's see, we can do this by, let's do this. This is my wrist. My wrist dot append. Let's append Raymond. Okay, and now let's print our wrist. My wrist. Okay, let's go and save this. Okay, we can see our new wrist has Raymond. Okay, you can also try to insert an element to a specific position. You can do that by using the insert method. Let's say my wrist dot insert. Let's try to insert at position 1. Let's try to insert cherry. It should be a string. Cherry. Let's print my wrist. Okay, go and save this. Okay, you can see at this position 0, this position 1, we have inserted cherry. Okay, now if you want to remove an element from your wrist, you can do this by using the pop method. And let's say my wrist dot pop. Okay, remember, just when we pop, we remove the rest element. So we can do this. Let's say, let's create my item is equal to my wrist dot pop. Then let's print our wrist. Let's see. So printing this, you can see the apple is removed from our wrist. Also, if you want to remove a specific element, you can do that with the remove method. For example, we can let's just use this. You can just insert a method here, dot remove. Then what do you want to remove? Let's say you want to remove oranges. Okay, just remember it's a string. You should not, and remember that the spelling are correct. So let's print here. You can see oranges are removed. So you can also decide to remove all the elements in your list. You can do this by using the clear method. For example, just here, you can just use my list dot clear. Okay, if we clear and we save this, if we print here, you can see we have empty list. Okay, some useful things you can do with list. For example, you can try to reverse your list. Just use the reverse method. Okay, reverse. And if we print our list here, okay, started with apples, oranges, and banana. Also, you can sort your elements by using the sorting method. For example, let's just put a new list here. Let's say our list, let's say my list equals to, let's put numbers here. Let's put like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm so crazy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, we can also put like a negative number. We can put say a negative number. We can put -5. We can put -5, I mean. And then if you want to sort these numbers, just sort, and let's print our list. You can see our list is sorted correctly. Okay, yeah, you can also use the sorted method. For example, and say item equals to sorted, then my list. Okay, then if we print the item, now we should have the same answer. Okay, now some useful tricks here. If you want to create a new list with the same elements multiple times, for example, you can you want to print like 6 zeros to a specific list. You can do this by, let's just delete this. Okay, and uncomment this first. Okay, let's say you want to print your list. I just comment this. Let's say my list. Let's say my list, and this list should have contain 0. Remember, we want to print 6 zeros. Then you can times 6 here, and then if we try to print our list here, print my list, Control and save. Okay, so we have a list with 6 zeros. Okay, we can also concatenate a list. Concatenating is like adding a list. What should be my list one? Let's say equals to, let's say to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and my list 2 to, let's say, equals to 7 and 8 and 9. So we want to print a new list which equals to my list, then plus my list 2. So if we print the new list, I mean, we should have this list concatenated. Okay, as you can see, our list is added correctly. Okay, just to note here, instead of 6 I kept it 56, but it's all the same, no problem with that. Now Let's talk about slicing wrists. So slicing is a nice and technique to access part of your wrist with a colon. So for example, let's just use this wrist one and say here is 6 and put like 7 and 8. Now L equals to this bracket, the wrist brackets, to index 5. So, okay, now if we print L, we'll have, okay, so it starts from 2, 5, 6, as you can see, index 1, and goes to 1, 2, 3, 4, and then exclude 7. Okay, if you don't want to specify starting index, it starts with a, we can say we can start from the beginning. It's just a colon. You can move this one here, so it starts from index 0. And if we print our list here, C starts from 1 and to 5, but excludes the 5. So also, if you don't want to specify a stop index, you can just maybe start from 1 and you can remove this 5. Just means it starts from 1 to the last element. We can print that. Good, as you can see here. Also, you may have an option step, so you can decide, should I slice my list with how many steps? Let's say, for example, you can start with, you can do this by specifying with 2 colons. You can say start from the beginning and then to the end with step 1. Now, if we print our list, you can see it goes, because it jumps from 1, then 2, 3, 4, as you can see, but also goes to with 2 steps here. Now let's print our list. Now go to 1, 4, 6, and 8. Now you can also specify with a negative index. So this is nice if, this is a nice trick if you want to reverse a particular list. For example, let's say here, you can say let's put -1. So, and let's try to print our list here. See, good. Now, this is a very nice trick to reverse your list. Okay. Now, let's talk about copying a list. For example, let's have our original list, this one here. Let's call this my list underscore OG, and then let's say list underscore copy equals to my list OG. Now list copy dot append, let's say we append lemon, and then let's print here the original list, my list original, and then let's print here the list copy, and see what happens. If we print, we can see the original list has lemon and the list copy has lemon. We see all have lemons, so this is a, you have to know what you're doing here. Get rid of this problem, we just have to use the copy method. The copy method can help us to have the list copy and avoid all the lists have these lemons. For example, we may decide to write like list copy here. The list copy should be my list OG, then dot use the dot copy method. Let's see. Now if you use the dot copy method and then try to print this, let's see what happens. Now you can see that the original list does not contain the lemon. So this is how we can go around with this problem. Now let's talk about an advanced technique which is called list comprehension. So this is a first way to create a new list from an existing list with single line. For example, if you want to have a list with numbers, let's say we have a list with numbers. For example, let's say my list, then equals to, let's say we have 1, we have 2, we have 3, we have 4, we have 5, and we have 6. Okay, now let's say B equals to now how we comprehend this, we say I times I, then for I in my list. You can see here that we have just, this is the syntax, that I times I for I in my list. Then we can print, let's print our list here, print my list, and then let's print B. Okay, you can see, let's say it's 1 times 1, 1, 2 times 2, 4, 3 times 3 is 9. So this is list comprehension. So thank you so much for watching, and